For those of you who don't know
here on every
who we
show,
are,
but we've got some newbies, so to speak.
Yep.
Boss, start.
Alright, I'm Josh B, CollectionDX, guy who created it, then runs stuff occasionally. This is Dan, not Big Dan, this
is considerably smaller.
smaller Dan.
Yeah.
He goes by the name Annabelle.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means actually.
It's the worst Gundam character.
Oh,
I
There
like
you go.
that.
The worst
You know
Gundam
what?
character ever.
there you go.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
kind of cool. I like that character.
And we have Andrew the Thief.
I
The
suppose.
one, the only.
We have
Yeah.
Sanjeev,
The one, the only.
and Dave, Necro Dave. And we're changing venue today. We're upstairs because it's like 110 degrees downstairs. So,
Sure enough.
yeah. So, some assembly required, episode number 758.
Yeah.
This should be our first time to use the new logo too, right?
Correct.
I can't wait for this. Is it going to be the best part of the show? You've probably already seen it, so you might as well, it's
Yeah.
all downhill from here.
Well, we haven't seen it, so we're.
I have no idea what the new logo. Oh, yeah, okay.
What was the old logo?
It's right over here. See it right there in the corner there? It's right there.
The magic of the internet.
It's
Did you put the
awesome.
logo right over my face?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna leave it there the whole show.
I'm the one who brought it up. I deserve it, I suppose.
So,
Yeah.
what is today's subject?
I haven't thought that far ahead.
We never did.
There were some rumblings about like old versus new, Yahoo
We
Japan.
can do an old version, but I have to get some toys,
Kitties.
wouldn't I?
Yeah, bring a Valkyrie toy. Because that's
Alright.
always like.
You guys set up the discussion.
Okay.
I'll go return with some older toys.
Okay. Well, some of
Um,
these are kind of old. I mean,
No.
there's
Well, that one is.
yeah.
I brought some toys in my car. I could go grab something from my latest Yahoo Japan.
No, just keep talking.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
All right. I think what we need to do before we do like old versus new is kind of establish what we're trying to do as like categories, because what I see a lot of, and from these guys especially, both of them, they
I'm
do.
looking right at you, Andrew. You
Yeah.
better watch what you're saying.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the camera because you have to look. But is that you have like new, as in collector's toys, like this. This is a great toy, but it's a collector's toy. You don't give this to a kid.
It will break in 5 minutes or less.
We were like handling it for
30 seconds.
about a half hour.
like a kid.
I don't know.
Smashed into the ground.
I guess, I don't know. That was pretty tough for this thing. But
We can wake up
Versus-
Josh's kids and try it.
That's true.
Yeah, we could. You can buy me a new one. Versus, say, the original. Like, this is same character, but this is for the big kids, us, the little kids, like the Takatoku, which I think Josh is going to go get. Yeah. This is a nice toy. You should go buy one.
No more of that. Sorry, internet.
That's fine. But then you have things like, say, just new, like toys for kids. For example, any new Transformer, because Transformers have always been, for the most part, for kids, except for like Revoltex, the
Yeah, masterpiece.
Yeah.
Masterpiece. Yeah.
Masterpiece is still, I mean, they bring it out here
Yeah.
and they put it on the shelf at Target.
That's true.
And then everybody waits like until they're $30 and then buys them. You know.
But I guess my point is that initially when those were made and released in Japan, I mean, they're like $110 toys or something. Like,
Yeah.
probably not intended for kids, you know.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm speculating, I'm not really.
I'm pretty sure when it makes people have a heart attack.
It does seem that way to me.
Got armfuls of toys coming here.
Good lord.
Well, this is the Mosquito.
Go. Gentle.
Oh, because the toys. Alright.
It's their toys. Remember that.
So I brought up with a selection of things that are easily accessible that I had the old of and the new of.
This is a good idea.
Okay. You saw the
Your like Legios is kind of loose.
Hey, listen. I don't talk about your sex life.
I know.
Damn.
I keep my Legios tight, guys.
Don't worry. It's a reissue.
Okay.
It's
Yes,
okay.
it's not an original. Maybe I should just like put this guy next to
So
him.
for an ignoramus like me, as a reissue, is that exactly the same as the original one?
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
When did you get the blue Legios? You didn't have that.
I got that on my last trip at Tokyo. It was just kind of stuffed in the back of my cabinet. It's hard to see.
It's hard to see. You totally don't know how to display toys. You get that little plane behind these like 8 feet tall robots.
What, this thing?
Yeah, put that up front.
Do that.
Well, we don't have an old version of it.
There never was an old version. That's a great thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Now, in 20 years,
There we
will
go.
we be
That's a
comparing
good cover
the
sound
new,
effect.
will we be comparing the new VF-27 to the original?
Entirely possible.
I don't know.
You'll be modding the ones that you were complaining about now.
Electronic, automatic transforming toys, you know?
I don't think they're going to put the robotics into toys just yet.
In 20 years, there's not going to be toys. It's just going to be some virtual experience that you jack into and then...
No, in
Get
20
to
years, they'll just be
play.
playing on your
It's like we can buy those lame, like, I mean, maybe they're not lame, but the collections of the entire run of X-Men on a CD-ROM, you know? You can just be able to just get the whole...
It's like, just like...
You'll get a rapid prototype printer that can cut through zinc
Hey,
and like
that's-
a bunch of files, and you just...
Like, I
It's
saw
like a
this thing
JO2,
for,
and just... brrr.
Use this website they're doing rapid prototyping. You can buy it.
There's a ton of websites.
Yeah, you could do it.
You gotta spend hundreds of dollars and
Yeah, that's true.
not cheap.
Yeah, that one's a bitch to stand. I took it off the stand just for the point of...
I
There's one
feel like
caliber...
this is a good subject, though. This is the masterpiece, Mosquito, or Cyclone, whatever. And this is the original chogokin. And you'll notice this one thing about the new one. Well, this guy came apart. That's okay, though. He's
Jekar.
double checker.
I don't know what this is. Oh, it's a dead bug.
No,
Was
it
great.
vintage?
He was very vintage.
Well, these vintage of like 20 minutes ago.
Son of a bitch.
Right.
So,
Back to what you were saying.
yeah. So,
Everybody be cool.
this is the same character. You can see it on the thing here. It's not super clear, but maybe we can.
I'll put maybe...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe do
yeah.
internet.
So the idea is like this is for a kid's toy. This was by Gaken with help from, I think, Matsushiro. They did the molding,
You'd know.
something like that. Someone will correct us. This was something you could buy in the stores for...
Money.
No, how much were they? Like 30 something?
Yeah, wasn't
Yeah.
it
More than
3,800
4,000.
yen or something? It's 3,500 or something?
3,000. That'd be $30.
But the yen was all different then anyway.
Well,
so-
yeah, it
It
was
was
a
like
lot
3
less.
cents,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. It was like $1,000.
Yeah. But the idea is that...
But the average salaryman in Japan back then made $100,000 a week. So...
Well, yeah, it was the bubble. It was the bubble, just the beginning of the bubble.
Sorry. Let's go on.
Do you remember that? Oh, you guys probably don't remember the Mosquito music, but it's like from because you guys do.
And the bikes racing across the grid.
The grid, yeah, the grid.
Right.
If you ever watch Galvion, that's the cheapest way to have things like move if they're
You
cars.
keep the thing stationary and just move the underneath it. You move.
No, you just animate a grid,
Okay.
just moving.
I love grids.
Yeah.
I love lazy area
Just
so
a
much.
chase.
It's
Yeah.
fun.
And Tron.
And Tron. But the idea is that that looks pretty good. I mean, for the time, it looked.
It looks fucking awesome.
I still
Yeah.
want one of those.
Yeah.
I
It's a,
still don't have this.
yeah, it's kind of bulkier
Not cheap.
than what was ever in the show or in model kits. You know, and this is kind of closer to what was in the show for the most part. It's the character, but redone. But and the engineering is it's similar to this. It's like this inspired people to make these, like the new engineering, or this guy, or this inspired this, the Soul Chogokin in the original Chogokin. But what I see sometimes from these guys is when the new toy comes out and it can't do something like stand up. It's like, oh, why can't it stand up? And it's like, well,
And we bitch for ages
yes, they do.
on the internet because that's a useful use of my time.
Well, I think there's always this idea that when we were, younger, or when I say we, it could be any of the people who grew up with these,
Yeah.
that you had, that toy, you had this, this sleeve dress, but it was, it did, I mean, it was awesome to play with, it was great that you had it, but there was something like, didn't quite look like it did on the show. So now that you grow up and you've become a toy maker and, you know,
Yeah.
you really want, you know, I want to take this to the next level and make it look like it looked on the show. But I think it gets lost is the durability and the playability, the part that I think maybe made you enamored to it in the first place.
To be fair, both those aren't mutually exclusive. I mean, this
No,
guy,
not always.
like this guy is pretty solid and toy-like. I mean,
Yeah,
we did
he
other
is.
reviews of them. They're like, yeah, this is a toy. The word's still out on these. I think they're pretty good as toys. Pew, pew, pew.
Pew, pew. Well, I for one am typically someone who
No.
At least.
What?
I'm kind of an
Yeah,
open-minded guy. I like to ask questions and handle new modern toys and
And then you put them down and don't buy them.
yeah, and I put them down and I bitch about them later online and say that they're adult collectibles. These aren't toys. But I mean, like I said, I'm an open-minded guy, and at least in this particular case with the Mospeda from the eponymous show, I actually don't have one of the vintage ones because I just never really liked the super bulky
Yeah.
proportions. And this is ironic because I love the 55th scale Valkyrie from Takatoku and Bandai and the rest.
This guy.
Yeah, this guy. I love this toy, but for some reason I could never stand this, even as a kid. So when this thing came out, this is the Beagle slash Toynami,
It actually is the Toonami version, just FYI.
Yeah.
the Masterpiece Cyclone. I actually bought one from this guy.
Yes.
And
His was a Beagle though. Just for throwing it out there.
okay.
Oh, just ahead.
I don't even know that crap. I just bought the thing because I love it. The thing, I mean, granted he kind of has trouble standing up, but it looks so damn accurate. And when you transform it 18 hours later, the motorcycle and the dudes sitting on the bike looks so good. It just blows my mind.
Did you think it? I mean, I had fun transforming it. I just didn't care about the character, or not that much.
Yeah, yeah.
But you have fun with that?
No.
No.
It feels more like all right, I'll say this. It kind of feels like a necessary evil, like a chore that I have to get through. But I do like the fact that it's a quote-unquote perfect transformation. Like you don't have to take stuff apart and put it back together, thus violating how the actual mechanics operated in the cartoon. I like that it's all one piece. It sort of functions the way it did in the cartoon. So that's something that I appreciate a lot. But the actual act of transforming it,
It's a bit long.
I think I would appreciate it more and enjoy it more if I didn't have 8,000 other toys begging to be played with on my friggin' shelves. It's one of those things where I have to go actually break out the instruction manual because there's no way I'm memorizing the transformation sequences. It's just not happening.
I couldn't do it with
Fair enough, but you know, I mean this thing I can transform with my eyes closed, you know, in my sleep, you know, because there's only so many steps to it. But a lot of these modern toys, you know, like you talk about the Vinyl and the alternator, whatever those transformers, I couldn't memorize one of those transformation sequences.
But on the other hand, though, there's a beauty to that, though, when it's so intricate and so well thought out. You know, I mean, I don't buy these toys, but sometimes when I watch the reviews and I say, like, oh my god, like I can't.
How did they do that?
Who the hell thinks of this stuff? You know?
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Dude, I do that with new Transformers, and they're like mass market, you know, basic toys. Like
$10.
I just got
Not $200.
Well, it's
Bludgeon.
Fair enough.
The tank?
Yeah.
You know,
Which guy?
the tank Bludgeon.
Yeah.
The samurai tank.
He is metal enough.
He is.
That's
awesome.
a badass toy. I have
Yeah,
that too.
and there's some really, like, I'm sitting there and I'm unfolding it and I'm like, there's some genius engineering behind this thing, you know?
But that's the thing though, is
But I'll probably get rid of it.
yeah, that's true. I mean, if you don't care about the character,
Give a shit about
I mean, that's one of the things
Well,
I.
he's a big character in the comic book. If you ever read the comics.
Yeah, no, never did.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Fair enough. Read the comic, the old school stuff. Simon Furman.
And do G2. G2 was alright.
To back away from the Transformers and get to this for a second, I feel
Yeah.
like I'm saying this, or maybe we're both saying this just to contradict you, but I think I like this one better than that one too.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. But then again, I generally don't collect either like die-cast or plastic robots, so
Yeah.
I don't have the affinity for, vintage.
Well, because that's more like a figure with armor.
Yeah.
And transforming toys are also kind of a subset too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the
Like you
the
had-
discussion changes when you
Yeah.
I think talk about things that don't transform.
Again, it's
Like-
I when I had these, I never transformed anything. Like if I had any, SOCs or whatever,
Yeah.
I never once bothered transforming them. So the
Yeah.
transforming aspect means nothing to me. It's all purely visual.
There might be something new on the table. See if you can find out which one.
Hmm.
I don't know. Well, we were getting into talking about Mazinger anyway.
Yeah. So
getting
yeah.
away from the transforming
Yeah.
toy thing.
So Mazinger, obviously is a character that's like they would call it like an evergreen character in the sense that it's like they're one of Bandai's flagship characters. It's a cultural icon in Japan. So of course through every era of toy making, they've continued to make them. So what Sanjeev has there is a reproduction of the GA01 by the reproduction is by Banpresto. The original is by Popey, and it's the first chogokin, and it's very simple. It's very basic. They sold a shitload of them, and it basically launched
This phaser shoots harder than that.
this whole thing. Well, the reproduction springs.
Modified for current day safety.
Yeah.
Japan doesn't have safety standards.
So I mean, it was made for kids. Kids bought them by the ton. It launched a whole line of chogokin. It had a huge influence. You lose those things, and I am not very happy.
Oh, that's not a shoot, huh?
I saw where it went. It's all good. It's all good.
Because I know those things. They're like grains of rice that shoot out of the chest.
It's
So-
right here.
So they've continued to make Mazinger toys, and they even launched
They
these.
have? I thought they stopped.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting to something, Dave.
Sorry.
Dave, are you bitter about Mazingers?
Yeah.
Oh,
So I'm giving a little history for not those people who aren't in the know.
Yeah.
That the Mazinger launched. Well, it's important because it launched the Soul of Chogokin line, which was the first kind of
Is that,
adult collector-oriented modern Japanese toy, in a sense. I mean, up until that point, Bandai was making like a lot of Sentai stuff and ultra type stuff, and it was still squarely kid-focused. And I think it wasn't until the SOC line, aside from maybe some Gundam stuff, that
what
the
about,
whole
High Complete Model?
that's
Yeah.
Gundam stuff. High Complete Model ended and transitioned to SOC.
Right.
But in a sense, it kind of started this whole wave where you had companies like Aoshima and then Future and
CM.
even later on CM's Corp all threw their hats into this kind of modern
Factory.
modern collector toy arena.
Like
And
an
even
adult
Yamato,
collector.
So all these new toys that came out are basically because of the GA01, the nostalgia for that, bringing the GX01 going forward. So
Oh, it's funny you mentioned nostalgia because the commercials for this was, the guy,
yeah,
the little
Salary
kid,
man.
yeah, imagining himself playing with that, and it probably was a reproduction, and then playing with this and, going like,
yeah.
because, Mazinger does this.
Nostalgia.
So this
Nostalgia.
is actually the GX45. It's not the GX01, but
But it still stands. I mean, it's.
yeah. So is this now? Here's brings it down to modern versus vintage.
Yeah.
Nostalgia, okay, so we know that's a classic toy, okay, but which is the better toy?
That's not too bad for 1972. Or 73, I forget now. 72 or 73?
73, I think.
Yeah,
I
because
think
the
it's
show-
better.
the
So
show-
it came out right after the Jungle Mashinder. Right. Not that long afterwards, anyway.
And what I think, is, when you say of modern versus vintage, the versus, that implies that there's a great divide in the communities.
No.
Yeah, that they
No.
can't coexist together.
Yeah. And I know some people choose,
For both.
some people make a choice, modern or vintage, and sometimes it used to, it used to be based on income levels, because it used to be a lot more expensive to buy the vintage version than the new version. But the ride armor right there, you could get them for about the same price right now.
That's true.
You know?
Actually, probably, you could probably get a vintage one for a lot less. These
Depends.
probably go for like 100, 150, right?
Yeah.
Really.
And these things are what, like closer to 200, I
Two
think.
bills. or
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
So there you go. So now that factor is kind of out of the equation for a lot of these pieces. So you have, and younger people who have grown up with a different aesthetic for having toys that already had a larger level of articulation and detail gravitate towards the newer stuff. People like me, old school, gravitate towards the old stuff. But I love and appreciate both. Obviously I dig a lot of new toys. Why can't we all get along? Why isn't it okay to have like?
I didn't know we did.
No!
Well-
no, get along!
You know what? There are people that are say like, oh, well, I don't collect new stuff, and there are people that can be vehemently
Against old
against it. You know, like
Yeah.
is one inherently better than the other?
It depends on what your goals are, really, and it's again it is. I mean, collectors, so we have tastes, just like anybody. But I find that with like the new versus old, it really happens with if it's the same character. Like obviously this and this, that and that, you know, all these. But for like this my green VF27 right there. That's it. That's the only toy of it. And it's like, okay, so it's a nice new modern toy. Some people do try to get that comparison where it's like,
If it were made, no.
sometimes, but it's like, they watch me play with it on the video for CollectionDX, a fine website. They're like, that looks fiddly, or that looks not as fun as a Takatoku. It's like, well, the Takatoku was a kid's toy. This can draw blood.
So do you think that?
It has.
It has blood.
So do you think there's an issue with new toy design that is problematic that transfers over from the comparison of the Cyclones? You know, I dislike the modern Cyclone. I don't dislike the Cyclone. I prefer the vintage over the modern because of its fiddliness and its difficulty in transformation. I'm not one who cares so much for accuracy or plausibility. I like a good experience handling and transforming and you know.
Well, they're
So in that case,
Yeah.
so that suffers from some engineering issues that I find that is a common thread amongst modern toys, which is a fiddliness, an over-engineering, maybe some questionable materials choices, things like that. And so the VF27,
yes.
despite having no vintage counterpart, you think that it's just inherent in toy design now? You know, I can see the decisions driving the Cyclone because they want to make it more accurate. They want to push the limits of engineering. So there's kind of a goal there in that to make something so much better than the original.
Yeah.
There isn't that goal here.
But it's
But you think it's just that's just how the industry is now.
part of how you're trying to market the
Yeah.
toy too. I mean, that's a pretty expensive, deluxe chogokin piece, and it's aimed for a certain
Kids
target
aren't
market.
picking those up.
Yeah, kids in Japan aren't going into, Lawson and
Mhm.
buying.
Well, it brings up a good question, though. Do you think there would be a market, like if they made a VF27 in not necessarily the same style as the old school Takatoku 55th?
Like a more plasticky
Yeah,
toy.
well,
The cartoon wasn't marketed to kids. It was on at night, wasn't it? Like on late at night.
Oh, really?
It was on at 1 in the morning.
Yeah, 1 in the morning. Okay.
It's still very popular though.
But not that is popular, but with a certain age group. Whoa! Are you touching the Syrian? She's got a thing there. Hey, over here.
Let's talk about the cat for a minute.
There we
All right.
Animal abuse.
Well, that's kind of a whole other issue because you get
I'm
into
not on camera. There we go.
that's kind of a whole other issue with like
Alright.
Macross Frontier. But I think there's been a change in how like robot shows. They used to be, hey, you make toys and model kits, and also there's a model kit of that, so a kid could buy that.
Mhm.
That's like $60 to buy that, and you can build it yourself.
$60 for a model kit?
It's got a lot of parts,
Damn, times changed.
and it transforms, and it has like metal parts. And
Get off my lawn.
get off my lawn. Well, but
Do go on.
as I was saying, it's like that. Jog my memory here. I'm a brain fart.
The
No, you
toys.
can come up with it.
Oh, is that what the kids want, or no, sorry. With those shows back then, the way to get kids to buy stuff was to make shows,
Yep.
robot toys.
Right.
Nowadays, you have video games, and it's like, well, a video game doesn't really need a show.
The game is the show.
the
in a
game
sense.
is the
You're
show.
buying the show you're watching.
Yeah, like if I play Armored Core, I actually don't care about the story, but it's there. You know, if you care about it. Or the OG games, Super Robot Wars. Those have a story and they don't really have a show. They made shows, but they weren't that great. You watched it because of the game, not because of the whatever. The other way around. And like with Macross, you can just buy Macross from Ace Frontier, Ultimate Ace Frontier, the games, and you can just play with the thing in the game. And you know, it never breaks, it plays all the time. And also I think it's something we didn't realize, now looking back at it, a lot of companies lost money making these shows. Case in point, Gakken. They kind of dipped their little toe into making toys and they went, oh crap, nobody's buying this at all. And it went straight back to books, which they're still around, but other companies, Takatoku, who made this legendary toy, went out of business. Imai, who made all the model kits for Mosquita, Macross, they did Orgus as well, went out of business.
Well, we could say the same for like, car makers though. I mean, and
Yeah.
some amazing car makers have gone out of business that,
Oh, well, I'm not
that
saying
doesn't mean their products were not.
No, but I think that's it's a big shift in just the way, like, it's just the reality that we didn't quite see back then. It's like, yeah, this stuff was great and they put a lot of work into it, but that doesn't mean that it's really popular. You know, it's like these great craftsmen made that thing. I mean, they did that without computers.
Right. They carved blocks of wood
Yes.
and made molds and.
It's basically the point is that now like they've come to realize that they cannot sell to like millions of children. So
Oh, yeah, they can't.
have to focus on these smaller niche groups who really
They
love
can't.
these shows and everything.
Or
and a lot of
movie
those
girls.
people that they want everything
You know?
to be so complex.
This
thorough.
stuff is a dying market in Japan. I mean, the whole thing's being overtaken by Figmas and Revoltex and shit like that. I mean, that's what's in right now.
Or just
you know?
video games in general.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about collector toy. I mean, in the toy
Fair
area,
enough.
you know.
Right.
Big manufacturers like Bandai and Takara Tomy and stuff have their sights squarely aimed on a much younger market.
Yeah.
You know, on the 10 and under market. You know, or even lower than that, preschool type stuff is an emerging market.
Like selling actual toys for
Yeah,
them.
toys for kids who aren't old enough to get into and comprehend video games.
I wonder if that's on purpose, specifically to sort of indoctrinate them into actually playing with toys.
Well, it
as
could be
opposed
that
to
too, but I think
getting
it's just
into
that that's
video games.
the last frontier for them. I think they're realizing,
Yeah.
we can't compete against the PS3. You know, I mean, there are certain sub-faction of people that want to go after these nostalgic toys, and we'll cut our numbers and charge a boatload for them, and those who want them will suffer for their art, but we can't compete like that.
It's fun.
I'm seeing it in the American Toy Fair.
It's funny to me seeing the arguments online because I'm obviously.
Yeah, well, it's an online argument.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm one of these sort of a little bit more pro vintage because I like the aesthetic and nothing more. Like the fact that they're limited, I don't give a crap about whatever. I just like the chunkiness and the silliness and the lack of pretense about them being just toys. But
So if
I like
if somebody made new toys in that same style,
would I buy them?
you'd be all
Well, you do in a
I
sense.
do.
Yeah.
Like that's what my vinyl collection is. It's funny, my vinyl collection is like 90% modern vinyl, but a lot of those are repops of the old bull marks. That
Repops, that's
and
lingo
ones
for reissue.
whatever. Yeah, whatever you want to call them.
and colorways.
Yeah, colorway.
Colorway,
Hear that, Roger?
flippers.
Are you mad?
He probably doesn't even watch this.
Yeah, good for him, smart guy.
We'll make sure.
In jokes are good for your intermission.
But no, the thing I was getting at is just, it's funny to me how there's like, You know, there's some vintage snobby people who hate new stuff. They just love to hate on everything new. Who basically get all crazy about arguing like, oh, they should make it just like they did back in the day. You know, they go on these sort of fanboy rants, Steve H, about how like everything has to be exactly the way it was in 1974 or whatever.
If you want it just exactly the way it was in 1974, buy the toy from 1974.
That's the way I feel about it too. We were talking about it before, even before we came over here. Like, if this is a great toy, this is the first time I've held it like in my hands. It's really neat. If they were to remake this exactly the way it is, I would want this one and not the new one. You know, there's just something about it. I'm looking at it and saying, oh, it's
All right, here's
not
all right. The reissue Bullmark Mechagodzilla with the history of box set.
That's exactly what we were talking about before
Alright.
we came over here, because I just got it.
What's I mean, which one? I mean, obviously the vintage is more expensive.
Oh yeah.
The new one has a few, like some of the missile launchers. Are
Yeah,
working.
the knee and the elbow launchers are neutered, but the main
Right.
missile launchers, the large bore ones.
So obviously, if money was no issue, you would go after the vintage one. But money is an issue for everybody. Does a reissue like that make a suitable stand-in?
Well, that actually what we were talking about, it was kind of interesting. Vinyl is kind of that tough sort of, it's just this weird animal. Like, this is a vintage missile fire Mazinger Z from Bandai. Like, it's got scuff marks and stains, and it's kind of wobbly on its feet.
You know, lend me any of your toys right now, and I'll give them my kids for a day or two. They'll come back just like that.
I don't know.
Wobbly, scuffed up. I can have them write their names on the feet if you want.
Now this one actually is clean, but no. But like, there's something, like if you smell this, smell that. I mean, that smells like freaking vintage vinyl, and
It smells like a Halloween costume from 1978.
It smells like cancer, and there's nothing that can.
It's not as
You want to hit after
gaseous
this?
as other.
Yeah, right.
One.
Pass it around, take two and pass. But that's kind of tough. I mean, like we were just talking about, because I just got the M1 Mecha Machine Mecha Godzilla reissue, and I've always wanted the vintage. The vintage has been my vinyl grail for a while. Like, not that I've been like seriously pursuing it. I've let a few go because money was tight or whatever. But you know, I've always wanted the vintage. Then they announced the reissue. I got the reissue, and now it's like, this looks really good. It's really fun. I'm not quite as, you know, hell bent on getting the vintage now because the repro is so nice.
Just chilling.
Maxing
But I just noticed something when I was doing this. One, because I'm nervous and retarded. Two, that this guy, like, I mean, he's pretty solid as a toy, but like a little pillar just kind of. And that's something that you would, a vintage toy, you would, that thing would be fucking welded on there. You know, they'd be like, you know what, that's gonna come off, so we're just gonna glue it on.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's another, like, just one of
Or
those
if
little-
they did that now, the internet community would be
Oh yeah, well they're probably gonna do that on the
Okay, that's the thing. Like, what
Enraged.
is
Super Robot chogokin.
yeah.
Back in the day, there was no, like, there wasn't even a focus group, you know what I mean? They weren't like having kids come in and like test it to see if it was any good.
That's what I mean. Like, whose fault is it? You know, fault, if you want to even call it a fault. The things are like that now. Is it the people who made them, or is it the people who say, well, I want one that comes out and the wings unfold, and then now you have to make two different ones?
It's manufacturer's
You know?
fault for actually listening to the vocal minority.
Right.
You know, and what's weird, like I got a toy for every year, and Hasbro has an event specifically for the fans every year. They put aside they put aside like 4 hours.
Yeah.
They talk about the whole line of kind of collector-focused toys, and then they do a Q&A session at the end, and the people get up and they ask questions, and a lot of the questions are really pertaining to shit when they were a kid, you know? And most of them are like, no, we're going in a different direction because modern markets don't want that. And it blows my mind because you just set aside 4 hours of Toy Fair to talk to the people who all want this,
Right.
and then we ask you questions about this, and you say, no, we can't give you that.
You know, I have to
So-
say, like,
So I think it's it's dual-edged sword. I mean, granted, like Hasbro now, the rocket firing Boba Fett, they finally went, yeah, all right, we get it,
But
we
you
get
can't
it.
just go out and buy one.
Yeah, you could, can't you go buy one? You gotta go jump through some fucking hoops to get it.
It is kind of interesting. Like the thing about Hasbro is that they make some really interesting decisions. Like they make some decisions nowadays. They're like, wow, they're actually paying attention to what the fans are saying.
Yeah.
You know, what's the name of that character that they're making a toy out of finally, the Transformer from the comics?
Oh, the big one with the, it was from something I ever read. But yeah,
Straxus?
everyone went crazy about it.
Straxus?
Straxus
Yeah, I
in the
mean-
freaking UK comics, more or less.
Exactly. I mean, like,
He was in the American comics.
who saw that coming? I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's completely random. But the thing is, I mean, Hasbro in general is a weird animal in this whole thing because,
Well, they pretty much run everything now.
well, they do, but like they're actually successful at doing it. They're actually putting out like kind of cool transforming robot toys that kids like, and they're buying it. You know.
Well, they can do that. I mean, they've had 2 multi-billion-dollar movies to you know have some fun with, and
But also other lines too. Like they're making other.
well, they also have
non-movie-
Star Wars, which is a licensed film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know. And that great G.I. Joe movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, they're making Resolute figures at least, and that was kind of entertaining, sort of. Anyone catch that? G.I.
Yeah.
Joe Resolute.
So let's go around the room.
That's a no.
Vintage or modern? If you could choose one, vintage or modern?
Vintage.
Vintage or modern?
For sure, vintage.
Modern.
Modern.
Vintage.
Well, there you have it, folks.
Yeah, just I'd be curious to see, you know.
Are you surprised in the slightest about that?
No, not in the least bit. You know, and I actually thought about myself, like what was I gonna say? You know, but my heart,
Yeah.
like if I had to get rid of
My
everything,
heart cries out.
my heart is vintage. I would dump all the modern and keep the vintage.
But
if
people
I-
have different,
But not that I don't love the modern stuff. I think there's a lot of fantastic.
but
books.
that's it, people have different things they focus on too. Like you tend to focus on specific characters.
Yeah,
So from now until the day you die, if they make Raideen toys, new Raideen toys, you're gonna be buying.
probably, yeah.
So even though you say vintage, you have no problem with modern. And now I collect jumbos. They make new jumbos, I'm gonna buy them,
Yeah.
even though they're modern. They're not.
Well,
vintage.
I'm not generally ruled by that decision where I think a lot of people are. Like,
So basically, I'm wondering is, Andrew, do you buy like vintage Macross stuff?
I do
Or
not.
Not at all? Only the new toys?
Well, here's one thing about the new toys. They made more than just the VF1.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I like variety, so.
yeah, but there's a wide breadth of Macross toys if you
But
branch out a little bit. You know, I mean,
well, there's like
the
the
Death
I'm just
Droids,
using
you
Macross
know,
as an
the
I have
Death
a
One.
Death Droid.
What I
with the
appreciate.
Destroids though. It's like it's a little plastic robot that I can just buy the one that moves a little more.
Yeah,
See,
you're
but
not
when
really
a lot of people
losing
collect,
too much.
they want to get, like, they tend to get a completist attitude. At least I know I do. I know other people do.
Yeah.
So you don't have that sort of tendency at all?
No, I just kind of get what I like.
Yeah. Ed, I mean, I know he's kind of the same way too.
Yeah.
So
I'm a
I'm
vintage
just
guy.
kind
I'm
of
not
curious.
vintage.
Because it seems like everybody, or at least a lot of people, tend to have exceptions to their own rules. I mean, I know I do. Like I said, Josh does. I don't think you have rules, it seems sometimes, you know, judging by your collection, but,
Well, I think,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, for something, I mean, I was still buying Transformers as a kid, you know, that lasted for a while.
I
I think
didn't
the-
have a vintage.
What fell off the standard?
Yeah.
I have to wonder though, I mean, does anybody have nostalgia for Action Masters? Remember those
Don't
from
even know what that
Transformers?
is.
I've well, the action man. Oh no, I don't remember those. I thought for a minute
Those suck.
I was thinking Pretenders and
No.
hey, Bludgeon.
Yeah, well, Bludgeon's toy is kind of,
Badass. That toy is freaking cool. Look it up if you know.
That
what
was
I'm
like
talking about.
the shell with the.
Yeah, those the samurai tank.
Oh, I hated those fucking things.
Just curious.
Yeah, but that toy was so groovy.
That's
It's
like,
a
you know,
freaking
I kind of find like,
samurai.
like Transformer wise, I consider like I always consider myself a fan of G1, but that's not true. I'm a fan of like year one.
year
Yeah.
one.
You know, like if it came from like Diaclone or Microman,
Change,
like
yeah.
I'm good. I'm good with that. Like everything else, like the plasticky, like once they went to Cybertron, I was all done.
Hmm.
You know, once they stopped being a Porsche or a Lamborghini or a Datsun, you know, Datsun.
Datsun 280Z, man.
Yeah,
Just curious, but does the original even have a Scrander?
it's molded into the head.
No,
No,
not
it's
the power,
Scrander.
Oh, a different version of it, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the later
version 3, I think,
that has
has
the missiles
Right.
exposed on the.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say that might be that kind of a difference between, another difference between old and new is that, you know, The new has it, but it's not perfect, you know, where
Yeah.
sometimes the old doesn't even have.
Yeah, there are things that you would never get because they were never made. That's another thing. I mean, making a boss barrot solo
Making
chogokin,
the-
you know,
Yeah.
that never existed.
The tread fighter that was supposed to go with this guy.
That would have been awesome if they made that. They finally,
They made a tread figure.
but not the one that goes with this.
No, the one that goes with the tiny one. The tiny little Legos that transform.
Do they even dock?
Yeah.
Oh, they do. Oh, that's nice.
They plug.
They made a prototype of this, the one that goes with that, I think, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
They just had like ads.
No?
I think E-Might probably had a prototype somewhere.
Roger.
Yeah.
So yeah, modern versus vintage. I think there's room for both. I think your criteria for what you buy, it can vary. But I guess my thing to take away from this would be don't let a prejudice keep you from buying one or the other. You know, not all new toys suck. There are a lot of really, you know, there are elements of things from vintage toys that appear in new toys. Some really great, classic, simple, blocky, playful, fun robots. And I think by just dismissing new toys, you miss out on some really good shit. And vice versa.
CM's Go Shogun's a perfect example.
Beautiful.
Amazing toy.
Beautiful toy.
Every vintage collector who's picked it up loved it.
Yeah.
That I'm aware of anyway. I don't know anybody who dislikes that
Right.
toy. Despite the fact that it didn't seem to stand itself particularly well or get much on the aftermarket.
Well, that's another
but-
issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, the same thing, you know, for people who collect new toys, almost exclusively, there's something to be said for knowing your roots, knowing where this all came from, give you a greater appreciation for the engineering that it has come from. You know, it's kind of like my kids are young, but, you know, I hope I get them to listen to the Beatles. You know, like,
Yeah.
Or I can't imagine anybody who doesn't like the ARC toys. You know, even modern fans.
I hate
Uh,
those.
Really?
How's that for our
Right, well. Okay.
I've
All right,
got
then.
different to them.
That just goes to show there's an exception to every rule.
Yeah, right. And you don't know your friend, apparently.
I think what we're trying to say is don't be toy racist.
Yes.
Don't be toy racist, man.
You heard it here first.
Can't we all just get along?
Can you make like a rainbow?
A double rainbow.
Double rainbow.
Double
rainbow!
Double rainbow.
Oh my god, it's so beautiful!
But it's very easy to like take something like Mazinger and you know what it looks like, and
Technical difficulties.
Well, now we'll
Indoor fire.
The studio is on
Matt is
fire!
freaking out.